prezentację. Naszym następnym i ostatnim w tej sesji mówcą jest pan Andrew Luman, dyrektor wykonawczy Tor Project. Jedna z osób, które pozwoliły Torowi urosnąć z małego amatorskiego projektu do organizacji liczącej tysiące ochotników. Współpracował on przy projektach z National Science Foundation, Internews Network, Freedom House, Google, Broadcasting Board of Governors, National Network to End Domestic Violence, Departamentem Obrony i Departamentem Stanu USA. No, lista jest dość pokaźna, więc mam nadzieję, że prezentacja na temat Tora, którą dzisiaj usłyszymy, będzie interesująca. Zapraszam.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'll try and speak slowly so you can hear me. I know not everyone speaks English, and I definitely do not speak Polish. I understood about 3 words what he said, but I know what he was reading. So I also move around a lot. It's a nervous tic, but I'll try to keep it within camera range apparently. So I'm Andrew Luman. I'm from the Tor Project. You might have heard of us. We've been in the news lately. Over the past few years, I have been working with victims of abuse, stalking, and human trafficking. That's specifically what I work on. But I also work on Tor. I help run the organization. I help keep coordinated. Tor is about 30 people right now and about 3,000 volunteers. And I am the law enforcement liaison. So I've spoken to all sorts of 3- and 4-letter agencies about various things about Tor, about how to be anonymous, about how the criminals are being anonymous, and about how normal people are using Tor just to avoid being stalked, harassed, and just random people, random networks recording all their data for no apparent reason. So there's a book that's really popular in the US, maybe popular in other places, by George Orwell called 1984. It's about a dystopian future where everything is recorded, controlled, and you as a citizen have no rights, and the governments are in control of everything. George Orwell was an optimist. He could not predict the future. He could not predict the power of computing. He could not predict big data. He could not predict commercial companies using big data to better market and sell things to you, or track you, or give all that data to law enforcement, or organized crime, or any other entity who asks for it. So what do we work into? So surveillance. Everyone always thinks of surveillance as, typically people think of surveillance as police officers sitting in a car with binoculars recording a suspect, writing down what they're doing, writing down who they're talking to. Now you can do that online in millisecond resolution and store it forever. This is a company slide. I took the name off on purpose because they all have slides like this. If you can see it, you can monetize it. Do you want to charge more for gaming? Do you want to charge more customers for BitTorrent access? Do you want to charge more customers for access to Google? Do you want faster access to Google? Or pick a website. And because you can look at it on the network, you can pull the data out, you can now stratify that and charge access to, are you tired of your World of Warcraft server being really slow? Well, pay another €5 a month and you will have instant fast access on this new upgraded plan. The deep packet inspection technology that makes that happen, I've used it in the past. I used to run global networks. I'm fully aware of what attacks and how this looks like. I'm fully aware of humans who click on random executables mailed to them by strange addresses. But it said it was a fluffy bunny. Of course I clicked on it. It's supposed to be some new dancing baby game. Meanwhile, it installs itself, and as you've all heard today, advanced precision threat and all this other stuff, it's all out there. And the weakest link in almost every case has been the human. This is an example of deep packet inspection. This is from a packet trace in Iran. One of our users connected to Tor using our old protocol, using the old software, and this is what they saw. 26 seconds it took the Iranian government to identify what they were doing, how it were doing, and there's a reset. Is there a pointer on this thing? There's a reset at the very bottom, right here. When you look at the actual packet trace, which I didn't put the whole data up there, when you look at it, that reset comes from someplace 500 kilometers away. It does not come from the user anywhere in there. It definitely doesn't come from the Tor server on the other end in Germany. That's what deep packet inspection gets you in today's network. So there's far more threats. Komodo was a certificate authority. They served up SSL certificates, code signing certificates, authenticate certificates, all this stuff. They were hacked, all their private keys were stolen, cloned, and now the Komodo hacker, as he's known, people always, in the US, it was always attributed to some Iranian citizen. Lots of people in law enforcement have told me it's an Iranian citizen. Yes, he happens to live in Toronto, though. Toronto, Canada, not actually Tehran, like the news reported. He served up and created fake certificates for update.microsoft.com, for Apple's software update, for Tor Project, for Google, and for a whole bunch of other domains. And with that, he gets to man in the middle every single bit of traffic that goes to those domains. When you hit his proxy, infects you with your malware, and he gets to watch all your updates. He gets to update your system for you. And it turns out he did actually serve some pretty good updates. He served real valid updates, just with a little extra code added in there. So he could now watch your machine, what you do, and how you're doing it. So I picked on China because I'm from the US, and because I've heard China about 4,000 times today about how they're the source of all internet attacks, which is funny because most of the people saying that are Americans who neglect the fact that America is actually the source for most attacks because we have lots of computers and lots of bandwidth. But every government is taking down internet websites. Websites that are censored, filtered, whatever, for any reason. The traffic to them has been recorded, the traffic from them has been recorded, and the content is looked at and decided, well, this doesn't really go with our national identity, let's take the website down. And then you have the internet service providers. So in the US, we have a 6 strikes plan. It's not a legal law, it's an unofficial agreement between the ISPs and the copyright industry that says we are going to, if someone's doing BitTorrent sharing or copyrighted file sharing for any reason, we'll send in some warnings, and then on the 6th warning, they'll get their website taken down. So that sounds good to a lot of people saying, well, I don't really want my work stolen or something like that. To realize in order to do that, they have to surveil your entire network, they have to record all your data, they have to look deep inside your packet streams to figure out what's going on. And once they have that data, do you really think the internet service providers and the advertising companies that pay for it are going to just stop there and say, oh, well, we can only use this data for this. We can't use it for all this other stuff. Well, here's a confusing graphic that shows you where your data goes. So you're sitting here in the middle, and your data, you simply go to google.com or pick a website, pick whatever news website you like. It has ads all over it, and your data is now sold to all those different places multiple times, packaged with other people, and resold and resold and resold. In the US, you have no right to your data. Once you browse a third-party website that's not yours, or even if it is yours, once you give your data to a third party, they own the data. They can do whatever they want with it. I'm reminded every time I come to Europe, especially when I check into a hotel, there's this little thing they make you sign. At the very bottom says, you have the right to review, edit, and remove your data from our systems. I've never actually tried to do that because I'm not a European citizen, but from European citizens who've told me they've tried to do that, it doesn't work very well. So at least I get a warning saying, hey, we're collecting your data and we're going to use it and sell it. Advertising companies' reach is surprisingly large. This slide is about 2 years old. It's based on some academic research as to what percent of the top 100 websites worldwide had which tracking systems on it. So Google Analytics, Google AdSense, DoubleClick is now owned by Google. Google sees a huge swath of the internet. Maybe you like this because you want to get better access to ads and you want to get better access to products that that are more in tune with what you want. Maybe you're law enforcement and you're going after criminals and you realize that the website itself, call it criminal.pl, doesn't log anything, but they have Google AdSense installed and they have Google Analytics installed. You can now go to Google, subpoena all the data, and get a huge amount of data from the users, again, at millisecond resolution, down to what your desktop looks like, down to how big your browser window was, down to which version of browser you have, down to which plugins you have installed and which versions. So you can fingerprint the traffic down to its It's one of these 5 users, not these other 5 million. So, ISPs have all this data. They're collecting it as part of the 6 strike thing. How many people have seen that ad on Apple.com? You haven't. Apple.com doesn't have ads. It's only for Apple. What happened here is I was on a hotel network, and the ISP they bought off of, in order to get free internet, they inject ads into the traffic based on what you're looking at. That's what it looks like. I'm pretty sure Apple would not want that ugly thing sitting on their homepage, injecting, on their page at all, destroying how they spend lots of time figuring out how to make their page look good. And here comes some guy injecting a stupid ad into it. And if you think it's just Apple, no, there's Google. At least they gave you this little thanks, no thanks, opt out. When you read the opt out language, they set a permanent cookie that will identify you forever, and they still record all your data, but they don't show you the ads. So they still know where you're browsing or what you're doing, you just don't get the annoying ads anymore. So lately, we've been told Tor stinks. The National Security Agency of the US has a program to try to break down Tor and figure out how to identify Tor users, which, their goal is to go, from the legal perspective, their goal is to go after, all the bad people on the internet. And they're quite frustrated with Tor. We even talked to them in 2007. One of the things that was released by The Guardian last week was our own presentation, which has been available on in our code repository for about 5 or 6 years now. They released the presentation that Roger gave to the NSA about here's what Tor does and here's how it works. Which is funny because all our code is open and freely available. Anyone can download and look at it. But it took Roger to go put us on the radar of the NSA. What they realized, though, is that trying to break the Tor technology and encryption is going to be difficult, so go after the users. What they really did was target the applications we use, like Firefox and the end users, to make silly mistakes, and then identify users that way, which works pretty well. Once again, the user is a problem in almost all computer security. So Tor is just a technology, just like Twitter is just a technology. Everyone loves Twitter. Everyone loves to get on, tweet all sorts of things. I hear all sorts of stuff. The US State Department got involved a few years ago and said, you can't take Twitter down because all these Iranian activists are using Twitter. Please don't shut your site down. We love Twitter. We, the US government, fully support Twitter. We want Twitter, blah, blah, blah. That's awesome until people protest over Twitter in the US. Then, oh my God, Twitter is the devil. Twitter can't be used. Twitter needs to censor its content. Twitter needs to control what it's doing. And Twitter needs to start requiring real names and fully identified data. And you should have a driver's license or passport required to get on Twitter. This is the exact same Twitter. Everyone loved it here. Wait, it's used in the US? Oh my God, horrible. And what the FBI did, because I talked to the agents who did this takedown, they went to Twitter, they filed a subpoena, they got an emergency subpoena, which is a court order, came back really quickly, went to Twitter and said, give us the IP address of the person with this account, and the guy was using a hotel room somewhere in Pittsburgh. They went, found the IP address, found the guy it took them all of total of 3 hours to go from start to finish to find the person sitting in the hotel room and stop him. What that did was teach everyone else in the US, from now on, if you're going to organize protests in the US, you need to hide your IP address, you need to hide who you are, or you need to be outside the country so that the US can't grab you so quickly. There still is the reality of MLATs and all these other legal agreements that take time to process and go through.